Promotion often stops for the employee who makes the current role run too well to disturb. This is not a video about laziness, office politics in the dramatic sense, or hidden personal failure. It is about a simpler structural pattern inside many organizations. Once a person becomes highly reliable in a role, the company may gain more by keeping that person where they are than by moving them upward. The viewer experiences this as confusion. The system experiences it as retention of a useful asset. The usual explanation is cleaner and more flattering to the organization. It says that strong performance creates strong upward movement. Do good work. Be consistent. Be dependable. Become undeniable. Promotion is then supposed to follow as a natural consequence, almost as if the system were a neutral machine that converts merit into status. In practice, that conversion often breaks. Consider Daniel. He works in operations at a mid-sized company. He is not charismatic in a way that gets discussed publicly, and he is not treated as visionary, but he is respected. He handles escalations without noise. He catches mistakes before clients see them. He knows which vendor will fail before the delay happens. He remembers the reporting logic nobody documented. When deadlines tighten, his manager leans on him. When another team drops something, Daniel absorbs the spillover. When new hires arrive, Daniel trains them informally because official onboarding is weak and everyone knows he can explain the real process faster than HR documentation can. For 3 years, Daniel hears versions of the same feedback: critical, trusted, dependable, strong performer, essential to the team. He also hears another sentence, usually delivered with a tone meant to sound respectful: "We see leadership potential." But the promotions go elsewhere. One goes to a colleague who is less precise but more visible across departments. Another goes to someone hired from outside into a newly defined role. Another is delayed because the department is flattening. Daniel remains where he is, still praised, still heavily relied upon, still not moved. At first, this looks contradictory. If the company agrees that Daniel is excellent, why would it not promote him? If the manager depends on him so much, why would that not translate into upward mobility? Because performance and promotability are not the same variable. A company does not promote people simply because they are good. It promotes people when moving them creates more organizational value than leaving them in place. Those are different calculations. The first is evaluative. The second is structural. Daniel's value inside the company is not abstract. It is attached to a specific position. His competence is stabilizing a role that is otherwise fragile. He carries undocumented knowledge. He reduces managerial oversight. He lowers error rates. He protects timelines. He softens the cost of weak systems around him. In effect, Daniel is doing more than his job. He is compensating for the company's missing process. That compensation makes him important. It also makes him hard to move. If Daniel were promoted, several things would happen at once. His current role would become unstable. The team would lose a quiet coordinator of reality. Mistakes would increase before a replacement reached his level. His manager would absorb more noise. Existing weaknesses in documentation, training, and process would become visible. The cost of replacing him would not be his salary. It would be the return of disorder. So the system faces a choice: reward the person or preserve the function. In a company with strong process depth, that choice is easier. In a company running on informal competence, it is not. And many companies run on informal competence. That is the mechanism. The employee interprets reliability as proof of readiness. The system often interprets reliability as proof of current necessity. Those interpretations point in opposite directions. One says, "This person has earned movement." The other says, "This person cannot be removed without creating loss." That is why the phrase, "good employees don't get promoted," appears so often in practice without becoming official doctrine. No manager says it directly because it sounds irrational and unfair. But structurally, it is often true. The more a person becomes the hidden infrastructure of a role, the less incentive the organization has to create a vacancy there. This is not only about managers protecting convenience, though that happens. It is also about how organizations distribute risk. Promotion is not just recognition, it is a transfer of dependency. When someone moves up, the organization is betting that their old function can be replaced at tolerable cost and that their new function will justify the move. If the first part looks risky and the second part looks uncertain, promotion slows down even if the person is excellent. Daniel's manager may genuinely like him, senior leadership may genuinely rate him highly, HR may genuinely believe he is talented. None of that changes the structure if Daniel's current role is more painful to refill than his potential future role is valuable to create movement stalls. This is why high performers are often given language that sounds like advancement but behaves like containment. You're so valuable where you are. We really need you on this team. There's no one else who can handle this the way you do. Now isn't the right time. These statements are usually interpreted as compliments mixed with delay. More precisely, they are evidence that usefulness has become position-locked. At that point, effort starts producing the wrong return. The employee often responds by increasing the same behaviors that created the trap. More availability, more rescue work, more invisible problem-solving, more willingness to fill gaps, more proof of loyalty. That feels rational because the person is still operating under the false premise that exceptional contribution naturally creates upward movement. But under this structure, extra contribution can strengthen the case against promotion. Each additional rescue increases the organization's estimate of how costly it would be to lose that person in the current role. Each undocumented save reinforces dependence. Each quiet fix makes the surrounding dysfunction less urgent to solve. The employee becomes not only productive, but load-bearing. Load-bearing employees are often praised more than they are moved. What Daniel's case proves is not that merit never matters. It proves that merit is filtered through organizational incentive. A company may admire performance while still withholding movement if movement threatens operational stability. The issue is not whether the employee deserves promotion in moral terms. The issue is whether the system benefits from granting it. That is why promotion outcomes can look inconsistent from the outside. Two employees can both work hard. One moves, one stays. The difference is not always quality. Sometimes it is structural replaceability. Imagine another company with the same Daniel and the same work ethic, but a different internal design. Processes are documented. Training is real. Operational knowledge is distributed instead of concentrated. Backfill planning exists. Managers are evaluated partly on whether they develop successors. Promotion ladders are tied to explicit role scope rather than informal indispensability. In that system, Daniel's strong performance is less dangerous to move because his current function does not collapse when he leaves it. The same behavior now produces a different outcome. Not because Daniel became more worthy, because the structure stopped penalizing reliability with immobility. This is the contrast that matters. In one company, competence creates dependency. In another, competence creates mobility. The difference is not mindset. It is not personality optimization. It is not better morning routines or more discipline or a cleaner note-taking system. The difference is whether the organization is built to replace value without losing control. When people search for why I'm not getting promoted, they usually search at the level of self-correction. They assume there must be some missing behavior, some overlooked signal, some communication tweak, some level of polish they have not yet reached. Sometimes that is true, but often the more important fact is that the company is already receiving exactly what it needs from them where they are. That is why the language of how to get promoted faster often misdiagnoses the situation. It treats promotion as a speed problem. In many cases, it is an incentive problem. The organization is not failing to notice value. It is responding to value in a way that preserves its own immediate stability. This also explains why some employees suddenly advance only after threatening exit, changing teams, or becoming less central to routine execution. From the individual perspective, it looks like delayed recognition. From the structural perspective, the incentive changed. Once the cost of losing the person entirely becomes greater than the cost of moving them, promotion can become possible. Once another team bears the replacement risk, movement becomes easier. Once process maturity reduces dependence on one person, promotability increases. Again, this is not because the person became better overnight, it is because the structure changed its calculation. The deeper reframe is this: lack of promotion does not always mean lack of readiness. In many organizations, it means the employee has become too useful in the wrong place. The role is extracting more value from stability than the promotion path is prepared to return through movement. That interpretation is colder than the standard one, but it is often more accurate. It also explains the emotional pattern people describe without understanding it. They say the harder they work, the more they become trapped inside their own competence. They say reliability turned into repetition. They say they became the obvious person to trust, but not the obvious person to elevate. What they are describing is not bad luck. It is a structural pattern where role value and mobility value have separated. The relevant variable is incentive. Once that is visible, the story changes. The stalled promotion is no longer read as a mysterious verdict on personal worth, nor as proof that effort itself has no value. It is read as a system protecting a function it does not know how to replace cleanly. The employee's strength is real, the stagnation is real too. The connection between them is the point. And this pattern does not end with promotions. The same logic appears anywhere systems reward usefulness while resisting redistribution: in pay, in status, in creative work, in relationships built around one-sided stability. A structure cannot reliably elevate the person whose removal would expose how poorly the current layer is built.